Alright guys, what is up? It's your boy Beast here. Welcome back to some more Pokemon Black and White 2 Wi-Fi battle stuff. Now this is another Black and White 2 NU tier battle against a guy by the name of Seton from Smogon, and I'm using the same NU team as I used in the last battle. Now, I made this team look pretty bad after the last battle. The last battle was against a guy by the name of SP Madao, and it was a tournament match. The match itself was really good, but I made a lot of bad plays, and at one point I was really lucky. I got hacks on my side, but I still lost in the end, which made this team look just absolutely awful. So I did make a few changes to this team. I put on Toxic instead of Heal Bell on my Licky because I realized how terrible it was to put on Toxic on a Pokemon or on a team that relies, or when you have a team with two Pokemon that rely on Toxic, and you know, if you got Heal Bell in the mix, then it usually doesn't work out too well at all. So I got rid of that and put on Toxic instead. And it works a lot better now because I'm able to stall those incredibly bulky walls, and it's going to be a lot easier to get some residual damage on my opponent's Pokemon. Now, other than that, my Pokemon are pretty much the same, with the same moves, same items, and same EV spreads. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at this guy's team. So I realized right away there's not a whole lot of threats on his team, except for one big thing that I'm going to have to watch out for, that being his Haunter. And if I'm not careful enough, he will probably just be able to set up like a sub and just disable every single one of my moves on my team, because that thing is most likely a sub disable set, because that's the most common Haunter set that is being used, at least now. And the only counters that I have against it is are my Cacturn and my Golurk, and those two are really unreliable because, first of all, my Cacturn can probably just easily be one KO'd by hidden power fighting, and if he's behind a sub, then I'll just be able to break the sub with a sucker punch, and that way he can just take me out of there with the hidden power fighting or the Sludge Bomb, and that's really not too good at all. And my Golurk only has one move that will affect Haunter, that being Shadow Punch, and if he manages to disable it, I cannot do shit against his Haunter. So his Haunter is gonna be difficult to deal with. I'm first of all gonna need entry hazards because he's probably gonna have to switch a lot as well, and I'm gonna have to make a lot of predictions in order to deal with that Haunter. And I will need Stealth Rocks up in order to get that residual damage going on. So yeah, other than that, the rest of his pokes really don't look too threatening. God, I can't say it. The rest of his pokes really don't look too threatening at all. His Armaldo is not a big threat at all. I do wall it with, I do block his Rapid Spins with my Golurk, so it shouldn't be a problem at all. And he's got two Psychic types that I can handle with Cacturn, Swallow, and Golurk, and perhaps Zangoose as well. His Flareon, not a big problem either. I do have Stealth Rocks and stuff, and I can perhaps one-hit KO it after Stealth Rocks with the Zangoose after the Toxic Orb is activated. So yeah, let's go ahead and start the battle, shall we? So my opponent is gonna go ahead and lead off with his Armaldo, and that's really not too good at all because I decided to lead off with my Cacturn, and my Cacturn against his Armaldo is not a good matchup at all, because most Armaldos do carry the X-Scissor, which my Cacturn is super weak against because its times for super effective, and I'm gonna have to switch out of there right away into my Golurk, which does resist both of the stabs, so that's probably the best switch I do have on my team. And he goes for the X-Scissor. It's gonna do quite a lot of damage considering that Golurk does have significantly good bulk and that it does resist the X-Scissor, so I'm guessing this guy's maybe a little bit offensive, I don't know. But I go for the Stealth Rocks, and he goes for the Stealth Rocks of his own, and I make a fairly bad play right here because I did not think he'd send in his Haunter right here, because the Haunter switch is just way too risky, because this guy probably knows how to do here the Shadow Punch, and the chances that I might go for it is just way too high. But I guess this guy was predicting maybe an Earthquake or something, because that will do more damage than the Shadow Punch even after the Iron Fist boost. But I just go for the Dynamic Punch because I wanted to confuse him and then perhaps take him down with an Earthquake or two. But turns out he's just gonna go out and send in his Haunter, and this is really bad because this is probably one of those sub-disable sets, and he shows me that he's got the substitute, so I'm like, okay, this guy's definitely using his sub-disable Haunter. So I decided I'm just gonna try to break this guy's sub. I did not want to risk this guy having a free sub up, as I'm gonna switch out of there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go for the Shadow Punch, and I knew that I could take at least one Shadow Ball if you wanted to go for that, so right here I'm gonna make a pretty good play and go instead of one of my normal flying types. Well, actually, this is the only normal flying type on my team, but this is one of my normal types on my team, and I know I can take a Shadow Ball. And he tries to go for this, the Disable, but it's not going to work out at all. Had he went for the Shadow Ball, it wouldn't have worked out either, because I am immune to it, so that's really going to benefit me. And I knew he'd probably switch out right here, because I realized his Haunter is a big threat against my team. And I thought this guy was fully aware of that, so I decided I'm just going to go and go for the U-turn, because he most likely did not want to lose his Haunter this early. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my Golurk again, because I do not want to rep spin away those rocks, because these stealth rocks will be pretty useful against this Haunter. I mean, I will need them in order to take it down. So I do send on this thing again. This guy does not switch out, but I did not want to risk anything in the world that he's going to send in his Haunter again, because I did not want to play mind games again and risk losing, because his Haunter is just way too big of a threat. And if he manages to disable my my Shadow Punch on this Golurk, then I'm pretty much fucked. He will probably just sweep me with his Haunter. Well, not sweep me, but he'll do a lot of damage, and that way I might end up losing, because I'm gonna lose a lot of crucial pokes. Now I'm just gonna continue Shadow Punching, and as he's just gonna continue going for the X Scissor. And I mean, I think I take him down with like one or two more Shadow Punches. I'm not quite sure, but this thing does seem to be a little bit bulky, and it's probably one of those physically defensive ones, and that's probably what works best for Armaldo as well. I mean, it's pretty good rapid spinner, other than its weak to stealth rocks itself. So yeah, I wish there would be a reliable rapid spinner and you that could rapid spin away rocks and not be weak to stealth rocks. I mean, you got War Turtle and stuff and Sandshrew, but to be honest, I really don't like using EV lighted Pokemon, because they'll usually be really strong on one defense and really just suck and be terrible on another defense. And plus, if those Evilites get knocked off, then they're pretty much useless, you know. So he's just gonna go into center his Haunter this time, and like I said, I did not want this guy to do anything nasty with those substitutes and disables again. So I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and go for the Shadow Punch again. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm actually gonna go and switch out of there into my Swellow again, thinking he's gonna go for the Shadow Ball. Or I'm just gonna stay in and go for the Shadow Punch. I'm not quite sure, actually. Yeah, never mind. I'm gonna stay in and take the Shadow Ball, because it was pretty obvious that he's gonna go for that. And I knew I'd probably take it, because this thing does have... Oh, never mind. I'm gonna die to it. Never mind. False alarm. I'm not gonna be able to take that Shadow Ball, but had I been at full HP, I'd probably be able to take it with a minuscule amount of HP. But I'm gonna go ahead and set in this thing right here, and I'm not gonna risk anything. I'm just gonna go straight for the Brave Bird and hopefully take it out of there. And thankfully, he does stay in there, and I just knock it out of there. I think this guy was hoping that I'd overpredict, but I did not want to do that, because this thing is too big of a threat. So I damaged myself with the recoil, and I managed to take down his Haunter pretty effectively, if I have to say so myself. So he's gonna go and set in his Marowak. I do resist, well, I'm actually immune to stabs, so I'm pretty sure I can easily handle it. I decided I'm just gonna fodder out this thing, because this Swallow has less than 25% health left. And this is what I was talking about before. I was a little bit lucky in this game, to be honest, and it kind of sucked for this guy, because this thing would have easily been able to go down. This guy would have, my Swallow would have probably died if it didn't get that crit right there, but I'm not really quite sure how much impact that would have made in the long run, but it definitely mattered, because my Swallow would have been down. So I go for the U-turn on his Delusion. It does a lot of damage and almost takes it out of there. So I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and set in my freaking thing. I don't know what it's called. I figured it's probably not gonna go for an attacking move, because I'm pretty low at HP, and Toxic will probably take me out of there. So turns out that he's actually Trick Room move, which is not too good at all, because I do have a lot of fast Pokemon on my team, and if he sends in one of his Trick Room sweepers and decides, you know, set up, then that's really not too good at all, because he can just start destroying my team at that point. But I go for the Quick Attack. Thankfully, I do have a priority move on this thing. Otherwise, things would have been a little bit a little bit difficult for me. So he's gonna go and center in his Executor. And I don't know how, but I actually forgot that he had the frickin' Trick Room. I don't know how I forgot. It's just these small things that I tend to forget for like a second or so, and it kind of screws me over sometimes. But he takes that Night Slash really, really well, now that I think about it, because this thing has max attack with the Toxic Orb boost, and he still manages to take it really, really well. But I realize I'm just gonna have to try to stall out that Trick Room, because this Trick Room is really not, it's really nothing to mess with at all, because I mean, he can easily just outspeed every single one of my pokes on my team with that Executor. So he's just gonna go and center his Flareon, as I decided to go for the Sword Dance because I knew I could probably just wall it with my what's it called? God, what's it called? Cacturn. God, I keep forgetting those things as well. I forget these names, and things just get difficult for me. But set up the Sword Dance, and he's trying to go for an attacking move right here, and I hit him right in the face with the Sucker Punch, and he's gonna die because this thing doesn't have the best physical defenses in the world, and his Flareon goes down. So I knock out his Flareon. His last poke is his Executor. God, I can't even say it. Why? Why is that? I don't know. But to get a center in his Executor, I should have realized I'd probably easy outspeed him with this thing right here. I maybe should have went for the Z Bomb because that's probably the most. That's probably the safest move that I can go for, because it could easily set up a sub. But I don't know really why I sent on this thing, because I think I was afraid for Sleep Powder or something, and I forgot the Trick Room wasn't there, and I thought he'd outspeed me and stuff because he outsped my Zangoose, and I was just confused. But I forgot that the Trick Room was up, so that was just incredibly stupid on my part. But nonetheless, this was a good game. Seton, he decides to run at this point because it's pretty obvious I'm gonna win at this point, because he's probably not got Sleep Powder or anything else that can hurt my Cacturn. The only attacking move he's got is it's probably Psychic, so that cannot damage my Cacturn at all. So that was pretty much the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this battle. Leave a like rating if you did, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.